Welcome to week 5 of the processing course. This is going to be a big week for us. There are 4 main topics that we're going to address: random numbers, arrays, transformations, and the transformation stack. Let's look at these one by one. When we talk about random numbers, we're asking the computer to give us an unpredictable number between 2 limits. So we might ask for a number between 1 and 6, and we'll get back something in that range. There's really no predicting it, and that's the beauty of random numbers, because that means every time we run our program, we get different results. This is great for games, where we want the challenges to be unpredictable. It's also great when we want to create lots of graphics that are variations on a theme. In that case, we design the basic structure of the imagery we want, and then use random numbers to generate lots of instances, each one of which is slightly different and unique. There are times when we want the same random numbers to come up, and so we'll talk about how we would generate random numbers using a telephone book, and then the idea of using a seed to control the flow of random numbers. We'll look at making a garden of flowers by making individual flowers. Each individual flower is constructed with a whole bunch of random numbers. They control things like the size of the petals, how many petals there are, where the petals are located, where the stalk is located, and so on. Every time we run the program, we get a different bunch of random flowers, and therefore a different garden. If we use lots of random numbers to create a bunch of objects, we want to remember those numbers from one frame to the next. Arrays are a great way of doing that. The basic idea of an array is it's a list of containers that can hold information. In the top row, I'm holding integers. In the middle row, I'm holding floats, which have a fractional part. In the bottom row, I'm holding colors. These are all examples of arrays. Arrays can hold any kind of information you want to put in them. Each array has a type: integer, float, color, and then it can hold as many instances of that type as you would like. We can use an array to remember numbers from one frame to the next, and if we modify them a little bit, then we can make our objects move from one frame to the next. If we use multiple arrays, we can change several qualities of each object. We can even change color over time. There are many things that we can do with arrays. One of the easiest things is to copy them, and so we can get multiple instances of the same kind of object. In fact, there's a whole bunch of really powerful built-in tools for manipulating arrays, and we'll look at all of them. In addition to plus, minus, times, and divide, there's another arithmetic operator called modulo. Modulo is beautiful for working with arrays. It lets us walk through all the steps of an array and then wrap around again when we reach the end. So we'll talk about modulo and how to use it to create lots of rubber ducks. Arrays and random numbers go together like peanut butter and jelly. By keeping around the numbers that describe our objects, we can make those objects move from one frame to the next. Of course, we can make them move in much more interesting ways. We can easily make a kaleidoscope just by changing where we draw each object from frame to frame. We can also create other kinds of animations like falling rain. Here, every raindrop is different and unpredictable. Falling raindrops are nice, but what if we want to move our objects in other ways? That brings us to the idea of transformations. With transformations, we can take an object, here the outline of a bear, and move it anywhere on the screen, change its size, and rotate it. These 3 transformations, move, also weirdly called translate, along with rotate and scale, allow us to position, orient, and size an object any way we want in the graphics window. To translate, we simply move the coordinate system by a given amount in x and y, and it goes to the new location. From then on, anything we draw will be with reference to that new location. Rotation is the same way. We rotate the coordinate system, and from then on, everything we draw is rotated. Here's an example of the bear walking around the world, and all I'm doing is rotating him from frame to frame. We can also scale the coordinate system. Anything drawn after a scale will be bigger or smaller than it was before the scale. We'll see how applying multiple transformations one after the other lets us put things anywhere we want, at any size, and with any orientation. The order of these transformations is important, and we'll talk about that. And there are also some interesting interactions between these transformations, and we'll see those as well. A really useful tool when working with transformations is the idea of a stack. A stack is really just a mechanism for setting undo points and then returning to them. So first we'll see how a stack might work to help us draw a picture with a bunch of different colored ellipses, and then we'll look at the stack used for transformation. By using this idea of setting undo points and returning to them, we can draw things like this mobile. This is very easy to do with the transform stack, but it would be very hard to do without it. And we'll go through this in some detail and see just how it's done. Once we have that under control, we can take our animals and send them into orbit. Here we have a bear representing the planet Earth, and it has two little bears, which are moons, going around it. We can also apply these transformations to arbitrary geometric shapes. Here's a little mask kind of a design, and on every frame, all I'm doing is rotating and translating. Now here's an example where the falling leaves are random. I can't predict the size or color or location or anything of any of these leaves because they're all coming from random numbers. But by using arrays and the transformation stack, I can remember each leaf over time and place it where I want it. So to recap this week, we're going to talk about 3 big ideas and a couple of helper ideas. Random numbers let us create variation and unexpected surprise in our sketches, and we can use seeds if for some reason we want them to be repeatable. Arrays are a great way of remembering a whole bunch of information over time. We'll talk about how to create arrays, how to change them, and then how to use them and manipulate them. As I mentioned, the modulo operator is just like plus, minus, times, and divide, but it's just a little bit different, and it's really helpful when we work with arrays. To put objects where we want, we use transformations. There are 3 big ones: translate, rotate, and scale, and we'll see each one in some detail. We'll talk about the idea of a stack. This lets us set undo points and return to them. And then we'll see how to use a stack to create a transform stack, where, again, we save and undo. With random numbers, arrays, and transformations and the transform stack under our belt, we're set for the week. So we'll recap, and then I'll give you some exciting homework for this week. You'll find that these tools dramatically expand your expressive power, and they let you create a whole new level of interactive sketches.